times. Queer times. Queer times.
Queer
Hello.
Hello, Harrison. How are you?
I'm really good, Kristen. Welcome to Queer Times.
Welcome to Queer Times.
Yeah.
We're still in Pride Month.
Thank God.
Are you feeling prideful?
Always.
Yeah.
Proud, I think, is the word.
I think it's both words, actually.
Sure.
I think, you know what? I have the internet, and the internet will tell me it is having an excessively high opinion of oneself. Sounds like you were
if
right.
the shoe fits.
You could be
and
proud.
looks amazing.
It is Pride Week. I am not hungover.
Work. Oh, she's on the coffee.
Iced coffee. She got hit with the vid
Mm.
real hard.
You think it was COVID?
Now that I have been through it and I'm still feeling the fatigue.
And
right.
It's that lingering fatigue that really...
Is it COVID or depression?
We recorded our episode about mental health a few weeks ago, and ever since then, my mental health has been in the toilet.
And summer has happened, which is usually a good, but I'm wondering if it's the influx of people in town. I don't think we talk about that enough as a community, about how we live in a very tiny spit of land,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only sustains, between 3,000 and 5,000 people throughout the winter. And then summer hits and all these people show up with all of their shit.
I think this year was a problem because I typically, early May, I start back in a restaurant and I'm experiencing these people come in and there's this ramp up. But this year I'm not working in the hospitality industry like I usually do. And I feel like it's harder for me to
leave the house
yeah. And also experience the people coming to town. I was in Fort Lauderdale for a couple months this winter, and not to reveal, and I know you'll be shocked, that I am kind of proudly a, what other more prudish people might call a raging slut.
Girl gets it, and there's nothing wrong with
Right.
that. We do not shame that.
But I was in Fort Lauderdale, and every day I was having great conversations with people, and even if we didn't end up hooking up, it was even fulfilling in those conversations. I was hooking up a lot, very safely, just putting it out there. And then I came back to Provincetown, and it was that same vibe still. And then the second the town kind of exploded again with Memorial
Basic
Day weekend.
bitches.
Not even I'm not going to critique them, but with Memorial Day we had.
I'm not going to critique them, but I'm going to tell you right now in detail how much I do not enjoy them.
Well, it's not about who they are as people. But basically, once town exploded with Memorial Day, then we had Pride Weekend the first weekend of June. This current weekend is Frolic Weekend, which is Men of Color Weekend. The town just overflows with gorgeous, charming men, and I'm like, let's keep this roll going. But because of what Provincetown is, I've described Provincetown and the kind of sexual scene, I guess you would say, as like a merry-go-round that's just moving too fast to get on. And basically,
and if you jump in, you will get hurt.
Yeah, right. But basically, there's 20 times more people on the apps, Grindr, Scruff, Sniffies, whatever, but it's just everyone is so busy just because they're like, oh, well, I have to go to tea. I have to go to see the show. They
have an agenda.
Yeah.
Vacation agenda.
Right. And also that vacation agenda when it comes to the sex they're having, it's like they're on
have
vacation.
Standards?
No, they do. They're too much.
Oh.
They want to leave with their sexual trophy.
Oh.
They're not looking to connect with people. They're not, and I feel like I sound like Miranda right now. I don't know if you're a big Sex and the City fan, but she's like, he's called me sexy. Sexy is what I try to make them feel after I win them over with my personality. But like they're on this merry-go-round of like trying to find the hottest guy they can so they can go home and show their friends the pictures of the guy. And I'm not being self-deprecating or anything, but.
No, you're hot.
Yes, but I'm not someone you're going to show a picture of to your friends when they get home. They're like, yeah, that's a regular dude.
I mean, I tell you what, if I showed my friends a picture of you and been like, this guy, they'd been like, what? They would lose their minds.
Which is why most of my friends are lesbians.
Correct.
But you know what I mean? It's hard, and not to, I don't like the 1 to 10 scale for hotness, but like, I feel like in the real world of people trying to get to know people and have continued intimate relationships with people, I'm smart, I think. I'm not saying these declaratively, but I think I'm smart. I think I'm fairly handsome. I think I'm fairly sexy. I have good energy. I have a good vibe, but like none of that matters when you open
Abs,
Grind.
abs,
Yeah.
abs, abs.
when you open Grinder in P-Town and I have 28% body fat and that is the 1th percentile. You know what I mean?
Now, what about Bear Week?
Bear Week, I'm too skinny.
Wow. There is Goldilocks.
Yeah, truly.
There
truly.
is no.
Yeah.
I do agree with number one. I think you're handsome, and you know that.
Thank you.
I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense in that you bring a lot of high quality individual things. You bring high character and moral compass and emotional intelligence and empathy and all of those things. And those are not anything that has any value in the summer season in Provincetown.
Yeah. I know
As a
that's
matter of fact,
bummer,
people would
but-
prefer to think less of that. They would rather you just come in their eye.
Yeah.
And
not to say like I'm
sure you would come in their eye. I didn't mean to imply that you wouldn't.
But and also not to say like, oh, those gays are terrible. It's like I'm them. I'm part of it as well. It's like the profiles I'm reaching out to
are not ugly men.
No, exactly. But also, and because there's so many, I've never been not responded to more in the past month. You know what I mean? It's like I send a message, they view it, and it's nothing.
Do we think that there is some sort of connection between your mental health? Because you were like the last month, and I'm like, oh wait, are you just not getting enough dopamine hits from what
sexual validation?
From
Probably.
sexual validation, because that's what it kind of sounds like. You are falling into the trap of what the community sets its values as.
Totally.
Even though it's not really yours. And you're like, wait, why am I not getting it back? But in reality, you don't even want it. Like, you know?
I guess it's like I want that, and also like not to be too explicit, but like just the type of connections that I like to make through sex, like I want to connect with people. I'm that gay guy who like after we're
you
done,
want eye contact.
I'm like,
you?
oh hey, so what's your life like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hence why all my friends are lesbians. Yeah, it's tough. And I started smoking weed again. And I don't know if I mentioned that during our mental health episode, but I do think it is negative. Smoking weed negatively affects my mental health. And I'm trying to be better about that. I stopped in the past week and I do feel like there's a bit of an upturn in my mental health, which is great.
Yeah.
But also the adjustments to town. I also think COVID or having been sick about a month ago and that fatigue also negatively affects it, and the smoking the weed and the town. And I'm just like,
and what about the onslaught on the queer community that has, I mean, I do think that there should be, we should all get a little extra space right now because it is fucking hard out there in them streets.
yeah,
Like it is, you know.
but it's also like, it's hard out in there in the streets. I'm watching my friends who have immigrated to the US stress and worry. I'm watching my trans friends stress and worry. I'm worried and stressed for them. And then it's like you open TikTok or the news and it's Israel bombing Palestine and Israel bombing Iran and Iran bombing Israel and Ukraine and Russia. And I'm just like, it's so fucking much.
I got called by...
And then I'm worried about getting responded to on sniffies. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me?
Well, you're living in the moment. And for that, I applaud you.
Yeah.
I think there's...
And then I feel guilty for that.
I got a call from the CBS Boston station, texted me, one of the reporters I know, was looking for a quote about, hey, can we talk to you about the ending of the 1-800 LGBTQ suicide prevention line? They were like, hey, do you have anything to say about this? And I was tempted to not do this interview because I've done an interview with this channel before, and it seems like it never goes quite the way I think it's going to go. And so for those people who are like, oh, the left is all like attached to the media, absolutely not. I've been a part of enough interviews where they have gotten it wrong that I 100% believe that we have a situation in the media and how it is run. And so I was hesitant, but I also feel very strongly that my perspective right now in queer rights is not one of victim, it's one of fortitude. And so I know that, a lot of people in the interview were like, people are going to die because of this. This is another relentless attack on our community. Whereas my perspective was like, oh, the party of pro-life wants to end the suicide hotline, and good for them. We'll figure it out. As a community, this is not the first time we've been attacked. We've been attacked before. We'll rally around ourselves and we'll make it happen. But I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Of course, they cut out the line where I was like, oh, the pro-life party wants to remove suicide hotlines, right? Like, and that's the part where I was just so frustrated. I was like, wow, can we please call it what it is? Like the edit was victim. Right. And I get it. We want to have compassion for young adults and everybody who has mental health issues, but that's not going to protect our community in any way.
No.
That's not going to, it's not taking care of, it is not mutual aid. It's just pointing at the bad thing as the bully is doing the bad thing. And they were like, oh, and during Pride Month. I was like, of course during Pride Month.
Yeah, of course.
They want maximum impact.
It's like, not that it's foolish to say, but saying like people are going to die because of this, it's like they know that's the point.
That's literally the point.
Let's talk about that though. Yeah, so the Trump administration eliminated crucial funding for the suicide hotline that was dedicated to LGBTQ plus youth in a month. So it was effective July 17th, which is when it will go away and shut down. I do want to remind everyone right up front that the Trevor Project also has these types of resources. You can go to the trevorproject.org and they have resources. I think you can chat online. You can chat over the phone.
A lot of crisis services.
Yes, exactly.
That is what they do the most.
Mm-hmm.
And Canada has stepped up and said, hey, and I think that's the other thing too that's interesting is that we are in a day and age where you can kind of outsource resources because this generation is so text heavy and you can WhatsApp. Like we have a counselor who has WhatsApp and can be anywhere in the country, and our SASers could shoot a text if they were in crisis.
That's great. Let's talk about some statistics from the Trevor Project. So they estimate that 1.8 million queer youth in the U.S. seriously consider suicide each year, and at least one attempts suicide every 45 seconds.
Wow.
Again, I'm so grateful that the Trevor Project has these types of resources, but I do think, especially with numbers like that, I think there needs to be as many as possible, and I think the U.S. government should offer suicide hotlines for everyone and specialized hotlines for the most susceptible groups.
Well, let's talk about that because as the person who's always like, but I had this thought of like, I was like, all right, are we going to stop specializing our hotline? We do have a hotline. A hotline exists. If that was the intent, like, I love to give my conservative friends the benefit of the doubt. I love to give the people I know and love that I grew up with a benefit of the doubt and to think that maybe there is just things I'm not hearing because I live in a liberal bubble and that's not getting to me because of the media we just discussed, right? Like that things are getting framed in a certain way for certain communities because it's about ratings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if I were a caring administration about my entire population, when I removed this line, this crisis line specifically for LGBTQ plus folks and young adults, I would have said, hey, remember, we have 988. We have a national crisis hotline. And if you call there and you press number 1, you can get someone who specializes in LGBTQ care, right? Like there is actually a way to cut what they consider wasteful spending and manage resources in a way that could service everyone in our community. But they are not in any way doing that.
Right.
And that's how we know it's homophobia and not us just being little bitches. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so many reasonable ways that this could be done under the real belief of cutting the government. But they're not doing that in any way. They're overreaching the government in every possible way that they can to control us. And then they're cutting resources to everybody who is on the fringe minority, whether it's through ethnicity or gender identity or sexuality, et cetera.
On that same topic, and I know this isn't what you're arguing, but like the thing is like there needs to be a specialization because the issues that young queer people and queer people in general and trans people in general face are different and specific.
Correct.
And those statistics of having more queer youth consider suicide than non-queer youth, and the fact that at least one attempts suicide every 45 seconds is for very specific reasons. It's like being a trans person in this day and age, it's like you open the internet, you open the news, and
You open your door.
your existence is being questioned at every corner. Your rights are being questioned at every corner by people that have nothing to do with your lived experiences.
Your mental stability is being questioned at every
Right.
corner.
I do feel like there should obviously be specialized suicide hotlines for these types of people.
No, I definitely think there could be. I just think that there's a way to make it a part of a bigger umbrella and a reorganization that if this government really gave a shit about anybody, they would have done that.
Mhm.
And they didn't do that. I think at the end of the day, this is a time for action. It's a time to circle the wagons. It's a time to really build the community locally. It's a time to check on your friends regularly. The work to be done right now is taking care of each other.
Mhm.
We're getting hit with a bunch of stuff pretty quickly, all during Pride Month. And I wish I could say that, well, at least we're going to get it all out in this month, but I don't think that's real.
Right. I also think it's a time for intersectionality,
Correct.
which is, I know this gets talked about a lot, but it's anyone that this administration is attacking should be supporting everyone that this administration is attacking.
Yes.
Like if you're a queer person and you're being attacked, a trans person, you're being attacked, an immigrant, you're being attacked, women, you're being attacked. I feel like it is important for all of those groups to be there for each other and speak up for each other amongst them.
I think it's the only way,
Mhm.
is for us to band together to beat it down.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the normal gays?
Stop it.
What about, did you see that?
I did.
You want to talk about it? I want to talk
Yeah.
about it because I think it's really very much like when we were introducing queer times and you were expounding on like kind of your idea of queer identity and what it means.
Mm-hmm.
People really responded to that. And when I saw this interview, I was like, wow, this guy.
Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I do want to say one more thing about the suicide hotline because you mentioned like, oh, it's about budgets and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't want to hear it anymore. We've watched this administration give outrageous tax cuts to the rich.
Right.
Send out. It's so hard to watch.
You don't believe this is about fiscal responsibility?
No, it's so hard to watch bombs and planes being dropped on civilians that our tax dollars paid for.
Are we giving these to other countries or are we selling these to other countries?
I mean, Israel is all but funded by the United States tax dollars. And what's extra frustrating is Israel is so propped up by the United States government and our tax dollars. Meanwhile, their citizens have so many more rights and privileges than we do. They have Medicare for all, or they have universal health care. They have college tuition forgiven. Like, it's so frustrating that they're like the people who have less rights' taxes are being used to give other people outside of our country a better life than we have.
But you still wouldn't leave.
No.
And is that because the Americana stuck? Like, is that because you watched a parade when you were 5 and there's something deep inside of you that's like, I bleed red, white, and blue? Are you still at the I will fight for my country age?
I guess maybe. I think the United States is having a really bad moment right now, and we've had endless bad moments in the past, but I still think that the United States could be the best country in the world if it goes in the direction that I think it should go, in the direction that I'm fighting for, and I see a lot of other people fighting for.
What if in the grand scheme of world history, the US is just always going to be the young drunk cousin and Canada is really the right answer? Like that through the evolution. All right, well, we watched what we did here. That didn't work. And now we see a new incarnation of it. And quite frankly, if some of this, Ireland is one of the safest countries right now. And that was not true many years ago when there was a lot of civil unrest and stuff going on. And so I'm kind of looking at it as humans on a planet, there's all of these different levels of evolution happening and moving from country to country. And like, it is now our turn for the empire to fall and for the civil unrest to begin.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to be somebody who was like, I would never leave this country because I believe it is the best. And it has the right ideals. And I love the people here. And now I'm kind of like, oh, we are on a ship that is on fire in a storm.
I see what you're saying. Historically, like, we are kind of...
We're due.
We're on the tail end of the stages of an empire.
Collapse.
But I mean, if you also look at history and you see what we're going through now, and this is what I'm more hopeful now for, is like at the end of any ideology, there's always a big like death push. And I'm hoping that is what we're seeing in the United States and around the world, which is
Patriarchal last gasp.
I hope so, or at least conservatism and republicanism. I'm hoping it's the last gasp of those things. I'm hoping a lot of people are waking up to seeing what conservatism and what the Republican Party has become and what that is doing to our world and our country. And I'm hoping this is the end.
Eat the rich.
Hell yeah.
The reason I believe the LGBTQ plus community has made such progress in the last 20 years is that it transcends race, ethnicity, everything, right? There are queer people on every continent. There are queer people of every skin tone, of every religious belief, of every faith, right? And so I believe that it was that ability of others to know someone who looked like them, who was also queer. Like that was a really great way for our community to make progress rapidly.
Yeah.
Because you would find one of us in every shade and type.
Well, yeah, I always say that it's like I feel like the reason the queer movement has moved so quickly in comparative to other ones, it's like the queer people infiltrate everywhere. It's like
we are everywhere.
Yeah, and it's like
it's not infiltrating, it's of.
Right.
Like queer people are of every
right.
every skin color, every religion.
Right. And I'm not saying like
and we don't even make them ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Like that's the crazy part. The part that I just really can't wrap my head around.
Well, it's like every family probably has a queer person in it. So they have to confront their ideologies bucked up against the fact that there is someone who they're intrinsically supposed to love. But tell us a little about this clip of this interview that you saw.
Well, Richard Grenell, what is his exact title?
So, yeah, let's go into a little of who Richard Grenell is. He's an American diplomat, public official. He's the former public relations consultant who served as a special presidential envoy for special missions since 2025 under President Trump. He is a member of the Republican Party. He served as acting director of national intelligence in 2020 under Donald Trump. He became the first openly gay cabinet-level official in U.S. history, which I hate that because he's awful. He previously served as the United States ambassador to Germany from 2018 to 2020, which was under President Trump, and as the special presidential envoy for Serbia and Kosovo peace negotiations.
So he is their diversity hire.
Yeah.
And he's a rich old white man.
He's a rich old white man, and I feel like it is another one of those things where the richness and the whiteness often trumps LGBTQ-ness.
Well, it's their way to say, hey, what do you mean we don't like LGBTQ folks? We literally have one in our ranks who we love because he does not challenge us in any way.
But he's also the ultimate pick-me.
Yeah, no, his exact quote was he went to a pride parade and I found it embarrassing, frankly. He's like, everything's about kinks and fetishes and like, I can tell you, and this is what he said, he's like, most normal gays feel that way. That's what he said to the reporter. And I can say with confidence that most normal gays feel that way.
Who are these normal gays? I know what normal gays are, and it's most of that. This doesn't read as normal to me.
What does this read to you as?
Pick me.
A pick me gay.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I'm just like you. And people often think Stonewall as this like triumphant first singular moment of queer rights activism. And obviously there's been queer rights movements historically for centuries, forever. But people don't understand that there was a lot of gay rights movements that were happening before Stonewall, but they were specifically predicated on the idea that we're just like you.
That we will pass.
Yeah.
And you won't even be able to know it unless you're in our bedroom.
Yeah. And it's like, we're just like you. We want to get married. We want to have kids.
I was one of those. Like, full disclosure, that was definitely like, if you go like 2011, 2012, there was probably an interview of me on the Buffalo News with my fiance being like, yeah, we just want to get married, just like you want to get married.
Yeah. Which also, like, that's true. Yeah. That's real. But I feel like part of these movements were specifically excluding people that weren't just like you. They were excluding people of color. They were excluding trans people. They were saying, we're like you. We're not like them. You should hate them. And it's throwing people under the bus that are more easily to throw under the bus for your own gain. And that is something that specifically white people do and specifically rich white men do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, no, I am so close to having this full sense of privilege of being a white male. And you should ignore the fact that I'm gay because I'm a white male. I'm not like those other not normal gays, you know?
Right.
And that's what I mean by he's
Freaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what they mean.
Mhm.
And it's literally just because they have a boring sex life.
Yeah.
Like it blows. It's true though. Like it blows my mind. Like the idea that we would all be the same. Again, like, I'm really into spectrum as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all landing one little dot on this huge spectrum of life experiences. And this idea that all the LGBTQ folks in the world are going to wear polo shirts if they have an Audi, and wear polo shirts if they have an Innie, quite frankly. Turns out it's all just wearing polo shirts.
That's what it's about.
Lesbians are wearing
blue polo shirts, khaki shorts,
salmon polo. If you are
if you're
crazy.
Sperry boat shoes.
That's it. And as long as you do that, we'll accept you.
Mm. And he represents a resurgence in that. I feel like from Stonewall through the 80s, the AIDS crisis, 90s, early 2000s, there was kind of this communal, we're all in this together kind of idea. And now that so many queer people
have money, couldn't get fired.
Yeah. Don't have to hide because of the work that others have done for them. And especially like living in Provincetown, I'll talk to these people about the state, these older white men about the state of the world. And they're just like, I had to cut someone out of my life because we were talking about politics and the state of the world. And he's like, you just don't understand what it was like to work in corporate America in the 90s as a gay person.
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't care.
No, and I don't care
that you were hiding, that it was so hard for you to hide as a wealthy white man in corporate America while you were waiting for a bunch of black trans women to do the work for you so that you could step out of that. I don't care that that was hard for you. And now that you can step out because of the work that those people have done, you've turned your back on them. And that's what this is. And that is what has been happening in the last 10 to 15 years is so many people are resting now that they've crossed the finish line. If they're white enough, wealthy enough to assimilate and have the privilege that they have always strived for, and that you're then turning around and pointing your finger at the weirdos like this guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely disgusting and appalling to me. And I see it a lot in the Provincetown community.
Oh, it happens all the time here.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the work that I do in town is with a lot of gender diversity
mm-hmm.
and ethnic diversity, race diversity, et cetera. And so just, when you go through town near or around people who look a little bit more different than you do, you get to absorb everyone else's reactions to those people, right? And there's definitely a lot of either outright rejection of it or underestimation of abilities.
And also to cut these people a little slack, I get, and not to be ageist or anything, but like you're reaching your twilight years. You had you had an experience that I'll never be able to relate to, which was going through the AIDS crisis and watching your community decimated. Like,
I mean, for real, I would be ready to be like, I'm all set.
No, that's kind of what I mean. I'm like, go sit on it, get your rocking chair, chill out, but maybe shh. And let the people who are still trying to fight for people and fight for themselves, like let them have the spotlight. Like you don't need to browbeat them and be like, you don't know what it was like to be in corporate America as a white gay guy in the 90s. I'm like, okay. And now,
but you were allowed to be.
And now
in
you have 4
America.
houses and a house in Provincetown that you rent out for $20,000 a week.
And you were allowed to be
because you could hide.
Exactly, because when you walked into a room, they couldn't tell.
Yeah. And you could hide and wait for the people who couldn't hide to get you privilege. And then once you got that privilege, you turned your back on the people that fought for it.
Instead, you should just go have a martini and some hors d'oeuvres and write a check to a mutual aid group.
Yeah, I mean, when I got to Provincetown, I really loved. I was like, wow, it's so incredible how there are so many
Old gays.
There are so many wealthy people, and they're so kind, and everyone interacts with each other. And now I would give anything to not have to interact with old white gay men.
Not all of them.
Yeah, I'm speaking in general terms. Obviously, not all of them, but it's a perspective thing. And
Get me trying to get you out of trouble. I'm like, back.
I don't mind being in trouble.
Okay.
Is
that a thing?
I've already been in trouble.
Oh no.
I've
What
said all
did
these
I
things
do?
before.
Sorry.
And it's just like, I understand that you want to live in your privilege. Go for it. But don't tell the people who are still fighting that they're wrong or that they shouldn't be fighting.
I think that's the key component. Telling people that they shouldn't be fighting just because you found a spot. And just this constant perpetuating the idea that we're all going to be alike. Like that would, like, I will say though, this is happening while heterosexuals are working really hard to reaffirm the gender binary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that part of that is, I think we need to acknowledge that this is bigger than just in the queer community, that there is a large scale push from making sure that white Christians are having a lot of babies to making sure that a woman is very, very stringently defined. And it, you know, I have a friend who works at a Catholic high school, is a principal, and was just in a blue city, in a blue state, who was just here, and I like took my hat off. I'll do it for you guys. Here we go. I took my hat off, and like, I have hair, but I have short hair. And she was like, and when we used to hang out, we were both like ponytailed lesbians, you know? And she was like, oh, I want to cut my hair. I don't think I can cut my hair. And that was I was like, is that real? And she's like, no, I think that's real.
Because she works in a Catholic high school.
Because she's the principal of a Catholic high school, and cutting her hair might be the one thing
that would like push her into that otherness.
Into the otherness. Like if you at least grow your hair long and put it in a ponytail, we could pretend you're Caitlin Clark. We could pretend you're straight, and that, you know, we can just, oh, you were just a sporty.
Well, it's also, you're not confronting
even though she has a wife and a child. Like, let's be clear. And I don't think that in any way she's existing in the closet. I don't think they don't know that. But there's a difference between your community, your school, or whoever, your job kind of knowing you are, and being the face of an organization that if a simple haircut pushes you over the line of how you present, then you might be fired.
Well, it's because you're not making them uncomfortable.
You're not making them uncomfortable.
You're still a woman. You're not bucking gender binaries. You still have your long hair. But if you were to change, I understand what she's saying. If you were to change that, all of a sudden you are infringing on their comfortableness, which is what is the problem.
That is the ultimate problem, is their discomfort.
What I have to say to these people like Richard Grenell and the people that are not like other gays, it's like they're gonna tokenize you and use you as an example, like you said earlier. It's like, oh, we've got a gay guy.
Yeah.
You know? But once they've destroyed, decimated, dehumanized everyone beyond you, they're not gonna stop.
No.
They're gonna, like, they don't want you either.
Yeah, but they'll be dead by then.
Right.
And I think that's really, they're just like, yeah, ooh, you know, like, I'm running from the monster and I'm just going to keep throwing things in the path.
Literally.
And hopefully
Right.
I will die before the monster gets to me.
Like, you'll see these people be like, oh, I'm not like a regular gay. I'm not like those other gays who listen. I don't listen to Lady Gaga and wear rainbows. But it's just like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this idea, if we like do all, like, just this idea that, like, there are straight people who are sex workers and there are straight people who are not sex workers. There are straight people who like sports and there are straight people who don't like sports. Like, this idea.
And there are also gay people who like sports and gay people who don't like sports. And that doesn't make you better, different,
or less
straighter,
gay or more
less
gay.
Exactly.
No, it's really, there are gay people who are fucking all the time. There are gay people who are barely fucking.
Your heteronormativity won't save you. They still fucking hate you.
They still hate you, and they're just busy. You are just pointing them in your hate into someone else's direction.
And I'm not saying, if you truly desire to live a life of heteronormativity,
that's fine.
Yeah, Yes, please
be
do
you,
that.
boo.
Be you. That is part of, like we talked about it in the first episode, my ideology of queerness. It's like, be queer. Being queer is being whoever you want without hurting other people and allowing people to be whatever you want. And the moment you stop being queer is when you start demonizing the Lady Gaga gays. And like, you can have your dog and your 2 kids and your white picket fence and your partner and live in a house and go to PTA meetings, but that to then turn around and be like, yuck, but those people are awful. Like, that's where you stop being a part of the queer community in which I belong to.
It's literally why we just keep adding letters.
Yeah.
We just keep saying, oh, there's a different type. Okay, yeah, throw it on there.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Like, oh, and this one, oh, what are you? You're an ace? Great, sounds lovely. What does that mean? You don't want to fuck anybody? Weird, but all right. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're like, that's great. Who knew?
Right.
And actually, we all knew because we've all known an asexual person throughout our life.
100%.
We all have that aunt who's like, no. Do you know what I mean? Who's not fucking anybody because she ain't got time for that.
And it's also, I guess this is going off topic again, but back to me being a slut. It's like, I even went through a time where I considered the fact that I was asexual simply because it's changed in the past decade, which is like, there was such a focus on penetrative anal sex within the gay man community. And like, I say I'm a wretched slut, but like, that's not my thing. I thought because I wasn't like, I was like, I'm kind of not a top or a bottom. So,
because you weren't like, put it in my ass, or I want to put it in your ass.
Yeah. And so like, there was a time where I was like, I might be asexual because I don't want these things, but I'm so grateful for the
name names.
I'm so grateful for the expanse in the conversation around sexuality and that it is not even that is not specifically to the queer and gay man community, but it is like, sex can be whatever you want it to be as long as it's safe and consensual and your opinions and your desires are valid.
Period.
Yeah.
This is a feminism thing, right? When like, listen, if your idea of being the best woman you want to be is spitting out babies on the homestead as a trad wife, do it, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's a very similar thing where I'm like, you know, I view feminism the same way, where however you want a woman, I want you to have the ability to woman that way.
Yeah.
Right. And I really feel like it's a similar sort of judgy thing. You know, there are TERFs who are like, oh, you just want to stay home and take care of a man. So what the fuck? So what? If she wants to do that, let her do that. Mm-hmm. Let's just make sure she understands that if she doesn't want to do that, she doesn't have to do that. And fortunately, now she can get a credit card, which she couldn't do in, 1972.
Speaking of the word TERF, I saw on TikTok this video of this person. They're like, TERF is not the right term. Which, if you don't know, TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. And they're like, I'm coming up with a new term. It's fart.
I've seen that and I hated it when I saw it.
You hated it?
I didn't.
Feminist appropriating radical transphobes.
I did an interview with a trans woman on the Loose in the Bible Belt podcast years ago. And she said that. And I was just like, listen, I don't think that that's the way to progress. It took me a minute to understand the difference between femininity and gender. And like this idea that like as a woman, there are very few spaces where I have a lot of ex-girlfriends, partners in my life who were like the victim of assault and that sort of a thing, right? And there was a moment where I really struggled with understanding how we keep those women safe if a dick is triggering. Like there are things to unpack that go deeper than just like, I did struggle for a long time with someone who comes out, and I'm sorry it takes a trans woman to be 55 to come out because of the climate we live in. But there was a period in my life where I was like, right, but you did just succeed and get this pension you have by being a white male. And that was the only way you were going to get hired for that job you had that now bought your house. And now I'm excited that you get to live your truth as a woman, but let's not negate there was a privilege that you got, right? And it's a little turfy. It's a little like that line. It took me a long time to like really And I'm still like learning and figuring it out, right? Like I am of the mentality that you are allowed to do whatever you want to your body. It's none of my business. And how you feel good in your own body is up to you. And that goes from Botox to teeth to anything you want to do for you, I think is none of my fucking business, right? But I could understand, and it took a lot of like, well, quite frankly, working with trans people and understanding the journey, you know? And I think that because we live in such a time
incendiary.
Yeah, where nuance is not really encouraged, and we're not getting to mine out these issues and feelings as identities are I don't want to say surfacing, because trans people have always been here, will always be here, but the more these things come into our awareness and we start talking to our children about, hey, there is actually more ways to human, and like, let's really talk about that. I think we're doing a disservice by not being able to have actual conversations about, okay, but like, what have the lived experiences been? How many women didn't get a job that a white man got, who then, you know, at 50 came out of the closet as a trans person? And I think that's a fair question. It doesn't make anybody a bad person, but I think it's a fair question.
It's about privilege and the privilege that has been awarded to you, and then using that privilege to enrich yourself while leaving everyone else behind. I understand the idea that like people who transition later in life, especially trans women, have lived their life as a man and experienced that privilege, but I'm not a trans person. But my experience in my life, and obviously it's not a trans experience, but it is someone who has experienced gender and the way I experience my gender and the way the world is telling me to experience my gender. And I think it probably has correlation with the trans experience, which is like, I've had privilege through my life as a white man, obviously, but that privilege was kind of forced upon me a little, in the fact that like when I was young, I was very effeminate. I was bullied. I was called a girl. I was all of those things. And then I was bullied into being pushed into that privilege to an extent.
Say more.
I was bullied and had to change who I was in order to fit into the world. And me changing who I was to fit into the world is what gave me that privilege as a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I wasn't bullied, I probably would have. I look back at my life and I'm just like, where I sit on the masc femme scale or the spectrum, I don't know if it is authentic because of my experiences in my life.
Do you think you'd be more feminine?
Definitely.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like as I grew up in my life, I was bullied for being feminine. And then probably from the time I was 11 to the time I came out at 21, 50% of my brain was living my life, and the other 50% of my brain was trying to not appear effeminate or gay.
Right. I think that's a pretty standard.
Yeah. And so as much as trans people before their transition live in the privilege of being a man, I don't think it is the full privilege that a heterosexual cisgender man has.
No. And I don't think it is either. I don't. I think it's just a specifically about being able to be employed in a certain way, or I think for me it's more about how you were less likely to be homeless, or less likely. I feel like that it's not a burden, because I do believe it is a burden. But I think that as a woman who knows that, like, we still haven't had a woman president yet. Right?
Definitely.
Like when you go through life with so many, or, you know, the way everyone's like, wow, a woman sports reporter. This is real still. And so I think that in that cross section of where gender and being able to provide for oneself and independence and all of that, I think that's more of it for me than anything else. And not to negate that it's a difficult experience. Obviously, I was a tomboy, as they call it, right? And I most certainly went through, I had a girlfriend in high school. And then after her, I was like, oh, no, it was just her. And then I went into a sorority. And then I, I had a sequin gowns. Like I had all the things, right?
Work.
And no, I was hot. Like I was a hot Southern blonde who like played sports. I was ripped. Like it was great. But I didn't, once I left moving out of like Shreveport and even just moving to a smaller town far away, all of that shed away.
Mm.
And I went back to tomboy, quite frankly.
Mm.
I mean, I always was. Like, I just definitely, in the same way where you're like, you had to man up, I had to feminine up.
Totally.
For sure. To be able to succeed in Southern culture.
Mm-hmm.
Be a skinny white woman with highlights and eyebrows done. And,
you kept the highlights.
I did keep the highlights. I did. I have. And that's very much part of my identity.
Mm.
People, sometimes I'll like have makeup on and people are like, oh, so you got makeup. I was like, bitch, I was raised a Southern woman.
Right.
Like, of course I have on makeup.
I love when people are like, oh my God, you know things about sports. I'm like, yeah, my dad was straight. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I picked up a few things.
Yeah.
Make sure you like, subscribe, listen, tell a friend. Do me a favor. When I go through my life, a lot of people are like, wow, I'm really enjoying that podcast.
Mm.
And if you are one of those people, do me a favor and send it to a friend today.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, you might like this.
Yeah. Post on your Instagram story.
Just spread the word a little bit.
Yeah.
That's how community grows.
A big thank you to our producer, Chad Rossi, in the Provincetown Recording Studio. Yeah.
And we love you.
Yeah, we love you so much.
Clearly.
Bye.
Queer is in.